everybody, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I, of course, am just another Heavy Metal Maniac, and today I am ranking all the studio albums from none other than Polish death metal crew Vader. This is another difficult discography to rank because this band is extremely consistent. None of these albums I think are bad, although there are definitely albums I think are stronger than others. So yeah, we're going to be going over all 12 of their studio albums, not counting EPs, we're not counting any of their re-recorded albums, because this band loves to re-record a lot of their older songs. Yeah, without further ado, enough of my ramblings, let's just get right into the rankings. So coming in dead last, coming in at number 12, the bottom of the pack, it is their 2004 album, The Beast. Now again, I don't think any of these albums are bad per se. I don't think Vader, again, they're a very, very consistent band. They do not have a bad album, but there's a couple reasons why, for me, this album lands at number 12. For one, the production on it is not that great. It's pretty murky, it's kind of muddy, and it's just not the best sounding album production-wise. But also, to me, it feels like this album, they were trying to put more of a greater emphasis on, like, atmosphere, rather than just, like, kind of straightforward brutality like this band is known for, and it feels like at certain points they're trying to shove, like, more dynamics into the songs, which they kind of don't really have to at points, because Vader, while they might not be the most dynamic or the most sonically diverse band, they managed to write albums where each song stands out individually. So, I don't know, it feels like they were just trying to do kind of different things with this album, and it just didn't always land. There's kind of more emphasis on groove. It's not as just like brutal or pummeling as some of their other releases, but there are still some good songs in here. I think Firebringer is a pretty good song. I like Insomnia. That's probably the most intense song on the album. But yeah, The Beast, for me, again, I don't think this is a bad album. I just think it's just one I'm not going to return to super often if I want Vader stuff, which is why for me it lands at number 12. Alright, so coming in now at number 11, it is Necropolis, released in 2009. This album for me, while I think it is good, it's just, to me, this album really just doesn't stand out a whole lot. Like, to me, this is just kind of like a Vader album. Like, you know, I listen to it and it's like, yeah, it's Vader kind of doing Vader, and it's good for what it is, but there really aren't a lot of tracks that really jump out at me on this album in particular. There are still some good songs. I think the opening track, Devilizer, is honestly pretty good. Anger is, I think, the shortest song on the album. There's also, other than a couple little interludes that are on this album, I think that song is pretty good. I think the production on this is definitely better than The Beast. It's not as murky or as muddy, but yeah, this album is, again, it's just kind of a Vader album. It's not bad. It's just not an album I'm going to return to super often. Again, it's just kind of a Vader album, but again, it's not terrible. Even Vader, even at their worst, are still better than a lot of death metal bands at their best, in my opinion. So yeah, Necropolis for me, it lands at number 11. You know. So coming in now at number 10, it is their 1992 debut, The Ultimate Incantation. This might be a bit of a controversial pick because I know a lot of people really, really dig this album. I know this is one of the more popular albums in Vader's discography, maybe. But for me, while this is a good start, it's a good debut, to me, it's not. This band would just go on to do, frankly, incredible things after this album. So again, it's a good start, but it's nowhere near their best. The vocals in this album are pretty different. Piotr is one of my favorite death metal vocalists. He has a very distinct delivery. His vocals are notably lower on this album. To me, the production of this album is pretty rough too. They even said, Piotr even said in interviews, in the studios, yeah, they were kind of just, they weren't really fully prepared to go out and do this kind of thing, and they were just oh, we got to deal with Sunlight Studios, let's just go out and do this. And they had this drum kit that wasn't really a good fit for them, and you can kind of hear that production of this album isn't that great. And this album kind of has the same problem for me as Necropolis, where it just doesn't have as many standout tracks. There's only two songs on here that I would consider to be some of up there with Vader's best material are Dark Age and the Crucified ones. Those two songs are awesome. The rest of the album, while it's good, it just doesn't really jump out at me. It doesn't jump out at me as much. Some of the songs kind of blend together at points. I also think this album's a bit too long. It's 42 minutes, whereas for me, I think the sweet spot for most Vader albums is between 40, or not 40, around the 35-minute mark is really kind of the sweet spot. That's where Vader's best albums usually fall around the 35-minute mark. So yeah, Ultimate Incantation, again, it's a good start for this band. but this band would substantially improve from this debut, which is why for me it lands at number 10. Coming in now at number 9, we are now entering the single-digit zone. My number 9 choice is Black to the Blind, released in 1997. This is their shortest album to date. This album is only 28 minutes long, so it just kind of is not a very long listen at all. It just kind of breezes on by. This was a bit of an interesting, this is kind of an interesting album. For one, the production on it is it's a lot more raw. This is like probably the most raw production Vader has ever had. This album also kind of suffers a bit from it because it's kind of sandwiched in between two of what I think are this band's best albums, so it kind of does suffer a bit from that as well. There's still some really good songs on here, though. Fractal Light is a banger. True Names, I think, is really good. Distant Dream, I like the title track. I think the title track is really good. I think this album is good. It's just kind of, for me, it lands at number 9 just because there's other albums I like more. And I feel like there's other albums that are just have more standout moments and have just kind of better songs. A lot of songs in this album are pretty short, but they're not like super stand out to me, which I feel like Vader would kind of get this kind of formula now where they were great at writing shorter songs, but they were, again, made them stand out apart from one another. Some of the songs here, again, kind of blend together a little bit at points. This is still a good album. It's just for me, it's number 9 because, again, there's other albums that I think are better. Alright, coming in now at number 8 is Revelations, released in 2002. I think this album is good, again. I have a bit of a gripe with this album, mainly just because of the production. The production on this is, again, it's kind of muddy, it's kind of murky, just kind of like The Beast. But, to me, I think a lot of the songs in this album are just pretty badass. Like, I think Epitaph is a really awesome song. The Nomad, Whisper, The Code, the final track, Revelations of Black Moses, I think is an awesome, awesome song. Revelations, I originally had this album, like, kind of higher. It just kind of fell a bit for me just because revisiting it. Again, mainly the production. It's the muddy production. It's not the best sounding album in their catalog. But again, the songs are pretty kick-ass. Like I said, this band is very consistent. You know, if you know Vader, you know that they're just the masters of very aggressive, fast, thrashy death metal. And yeah, Revelations, I think this is a good album. It's just number 8 because, you know, you gotta assign albums to numbers. So yeah, Revelations is number 8. Number 7 on my list is Impressions in Blood, released in 2006. A little side note, something that I find kind of interesting. I believe this was like an Apple Music or like an iTunes exclusive when it was like released back in the day, because all of Vader's albums are on Spotify, which is the platform I predominantly use to listen to music, except for this one. And I read somewhere that it was like an iTunes exclusive. I don't know if that's true, but yeah, for some reason it's not on Spotify. But anyways, that's kind of off topic. Impressions in Blood. Yeah, this is a pretty killer album, and it's got some absolutely banging songs on it. As Heavens Collide is awesome. Hallelujah, which is it's kind of a goofy song title, but it's a fucking banger of a song. Warlords is awesome. Red Code, Amongst the Ruins. This album to me this is kind of like the point where Vader just pretty much kind of just figured everything out. You know, they very much had the formula down at this point, and they were just going to be releasing killer albums from here on. And Impressions in Blood, yeah, even though it's number 7, I think it is a pretty damn killer album. I would happily return to it. Yeah, it's a banger for sure. It's a banger. Alright, coming in now at number 6, it is Welcome to the Morbid Reich, released in 2011. Now, one thing that's pretty interesting, this was, so far, their only album to win a Friedrich Award. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but Friedrich Award is basically like the Polish Grammys, pretty much. This won a Friedrich Award for Heavy Metal Album of the Year, which a lot of their previous albums have been nominated for it, but this was the only time where they actually won the award for Heavy Metal Album of the Year. So yeah, that's pretty damn cool if you ask me. And yeah, this album is, again, it's a banger. It's got tons of really, really killer songs on here. Return to the Morbid Reich is an awesome song. The Black Eye, I Am Who Feasts Upon Your Soul, I Had a Dream, Lord of Thorns. Yeah, this is, again, it's just a killer album. I think the production, they've figured out the production. It's not muddy or murky anymore. It's clean. Well, I say clean. It's not too clean. It's still very dirty and gritty and polished, but it's clear. You can hear all the instruments. And yeah, I think this is an absolutely killer album. And it's just, you know, seeing it at number 6, like, I really like this album. But again, Vader, very remarkably consistent band. So this is a hard discography to rank. Yeah, so I think this album is absolutely killer. It's number 6. Alright, coming in now at number 5, it is The Empire, released in 2016. First of all, I love this album cover. Is there anything more badass than literally sitting atop a throne of guns and ammunition? That's just crazy cool. And yeah, this album is just absolutely killer. There's so many, again, all the songs on these albums like stand out individually. Like none of them blend together like some of the previous ones that are ranked lower. All these songs are stand out and they have great moments on them that make them, just again, killer songs. Angels of Steel is a great opener. Tempest is one of my favorites on here. Iron Rain, Genocidius, Parabellum. Again, all bangers. I love every single song on this album. This is, again, this is just an awesome album. I do love it. Yeah, so yeah, it cracked the top 5 at least. Yeah, these next 5, couple are kind of interchangeable for me, but although my top 2 are kind of clear cut. But, yeah, The Empire, this is an absolutely badass album for me. It lands at number 5. Coming in now at number 4, it is Tibi et Igni, which roughly translates to You and the Fire. I believe that's Latin. Yeah, this album was released in 2014, and yeah, this album is pretty damn killer. Again, every song on this album is memorable. When you hear them, you will remember them, and they managed to write just some absolutely amazing songs on here. Where Angels Weep is an amazing song. Armada on Fire is amazing. Triumph of Death, Abandon All Hope, Light Reaper. Yeah, I love the album cover again. I think it's absolutely just apocalyptic and cool. Yeah, this is an absolutely awesome album. And okay, this is a band that has been around. I didn't think about this until like just now. Like this album came out in 2014. This band has been around since the 1980s, and they're releasing albums that like could rival their classic material and beat out a bunch of their classic albums, in my opinion. Like still to this day, like in terms of like modern outputs from like the old school death metal bands, Vader is like up there in terms of like the best, because these albums are absolutely awesome, and they do go toe to toe with their classic material, in my opinion. Yeah, Tibi et Igni, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but whatever. Yeah, this album is absolutely killer. I would happily jam it over and over again. Yeah, not much else to say. It is an absolutely killer album. So coming in now at number 3, it is their newest studio album to date, Solitude in Madness, which was released in 2020. And again, going back to the point of old bands releasing material that could go up against their classics, this is their newest studio album, and it lands this high on the list for me. This is it's fucking awesome. Yeah, I think this album is like pretty much almost perfect. I have no gripes with this album whatsoever. Again, I love every single song on it. Shock and Awe, what a fucking opener, man. That song just comes in all guns blazing, it has no chill whatsoever. Into Oblivion is amazing also. Incineration of the Gods, Sanctification Denied, and Satan Wept. I love the closing track as well, Bones. This album just opens up at vicious hell and ends vicious as hell. The production on this album is great. Again, it's kind of more modern, it's a bit more clean, but it's not too clean. It's still very just dirty, gritty, and gnarly. And it's just, thrashy riffs all over the place. It's just pummeling, heavy, constant double bass. Yeah, I love this album. This, again, it's kind of crazy. For me, it's like you think of like modern death metal bands. Like, not a lot of them for me, like their older material would go up against their classic material. Like Cannibal Corpse, yeah, their last couple albums were good in my opinion, but like, are they better than Tomb and Mutilated? No, not at all. But with Vader, it's like number 3. This is their newest studio album, and I don't know, you might disagree with me, but I think this album is absolutely fucking amazing. For me, it lands at number 3. Alright, coming in at number 2, it is Litany, released at the beginning of the 21st century in 2000. I think maybe by general consensus, this is kind of regarded as this band's best album by like most people, and it's not hard to see why. This is a fucking incredible album. This is, what a way for death metal to enter the 21st century. It's like, yep, we're just coming in, we're fucking knocking down all your doors, we're exploding every single house that we see in here, and we're just gonna rip your face off with this gnarly, old school death metal, baby. And again, every single song here is awesome, but some of my favorites are like Wings, The One Made of Dreams, Zepper, I'm not sure how to say that one, but that's a fucking banger. Title track, Forwards to Die, The Final Massacre. Again, I love every single song on this. The production on this album is perfect. I would say it still holds up very well for a 2000s death metal album. And yeah, again, it's just heavy, gnarly, gritty. All of the disgusting adjectives you would use to describe Vader all apply to this album. Most of their albums, but this album in particular. This is just absolutely just gnarly. It's ripping, fast, intense. Piotr, again, one of my favorite death metal vocalists. He sounds absolutely fucking phenomenal on this album. Yeah, I love this album. This is one of the best death metal albums ever made, in my opinion. And yeah, I think it's, again, a perfect album, really. I have zero gripes with it whatsoever. I will jam it over and over again until the day I die. So coming in at number 1, and then my number 1 was kind of clear cut from the beginning. This album's kind of always stood out to me as like my favorite of Vader's catalog. But my number 1 is De Profundis, released in 1995. This is their sophomore album. This to me is an improvement on Ultimate Incantation in every single way. The production took a step up. Again, I'd argue this production still holds up fantastic by today's standards. I think it sounds really, really, really good. And again, the songwriting just took a massive improvement. Every single song in here stands out again. Like Piotr, his vocals, his vocals got better. Everything about this was just an improvement on Ultimate Incantation. And to me, they just kind of wrote the perfect Vader album, really. Like if someone asked me, hey, put on a Vader song, what does Vader sound like? I would probably play Silent Empire off of this album. I think that is a great opener. It's like the perfect representation of Vader's sound. Blood of Kingu is an awesome song. Sotis, Revolt, Of Moonblood, Dreamin' Me, Reborn in Flames is one of my favorite Vader songs. I love this album. This is one of my this is like one of my top 10 favorite death metal albums, probably. I think this is, frankly, a masterpiece of Polish death metal, old school death metal, thrashy, death thrash, whatever you want to call it. It's perfect in my opinion. I have zero gripes with this album. I love every single song off of it. This was kind of my clear-cut number 1. Again, it's close with Solitude and Litany, but this is my number 1 album. I absolutely love this album. I again will jam this album until the day my heart finally gives out. And, well, that about does it. If you made it to the end of this video, you are awesome, and I appreciate you. Consider leaving a like if you enjoyed this video. Consider leaving a comment down below. Tell me, do you agree with my rankings? Do you disagree? Let me know. Consider subscribing as well, because I do have a lot more content coming your way. And like I said, that about does it. I am just another Heavy Metal Maniac, of course. I will see you all sometime in the future. In the meantime, all of you take care, and have a great day. So long.